Well, as 2020 comes to a close, it's important to remain centered and focused on that divine presence within us to keep steady and strong as we're going into another new year. Can you believe it's halfway through November already? I looked at the calendar this morning. It was November 15th, and I thought, that can't be right. Well, there's a book that Wayne Dyer wrote some time ago called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. Some of you may have read it. And it's based on the 81 sayings of the Tao Te Ching, which is the wisest book of wisdom ever written by Lao Tzu, a Chinese sage. He was probably a composite character, as so many of the avatars were. But what a wise man, and the time frame was the 6th century. At that time in Greece, you had Plato and Socrates. In India, you had the Buddha. And in China, you had Confucius and Lao Tzu. Well, to talk about them this morning, there's an old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And some of you may have seen it, but there's an ancient painting called the Vinegar Tasters. And it has Confucius, Buddha, and Lao Tzu. I know that sounds like a joke. A priest and a nun and a rabbi go into a bar, but this is an actual painting. You can go on the website and type in the Vinegar Tasters. And they're the three of them are Confucius, Buddha, and Lao Tzu. And they're all tasting vinegar. And the painting shows the expressions on their face as they taste this vinegar. What would your expression be if you were tasting vinegar? Now me, I have to have a little honey with my vinegar to make it taste good. But of course, we start with Confucius, and the look on his face is sour. Ooh. The world is in disorder. It's out of harmony with heaven, and we need rules. That was Confucius. We need order and rules, and he developed a complex system. All his Confucius say, do this. Confucius say, don't do that. He made Moses and the 10 Commandments look like small potatoes. You know, it was said of Confucius, if the mat was not straight, the master would not sit on it. Oh wow, he wouldn't last 5 minutes in my house, let me tell you that. The next one we look at is the Buddha. Now his face was kind of bitter, at odds with the world. The world is an illusionary trap. We've got to detach and transcend the world. And life's attachments can cause suffering and pain, and heaven forbid you should have a desire. No wonder why it looked a little bitter. But then there was the third one, Lao Tzu. And he's smiling as he's tasting the vinegar. He seems to know something that the others don't. And he's saying, embrace the taste of the vinegar. God is in and through all. Be in harmony with all. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The sour and the bitter and the sweet. And the only pain and suffering comes from when we resist it, or fight it, or try to control it, or force it. After all, vinegar has very good qualities. Ask anybody who cooks or cleans. There's 1,001 uses for vinegar. Don't fight it, embrace the blessing. Now the painting, of course, is a lesson for our life. When life doesn't go as you want it to, and as 2020 been full of that, we shouldn't resist it, but go with it. Lao Tzu, one of the wisest men ever to live, said the more you resist and interfere, the further away from harmony you are. Or if you don't like them, we can go to a current wise one, Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks had a song that he sings, one of my favorites, called Thank God for Unanswered Prayer. And the first time I heard that song, I was like, yes. I cringe when I think of some of the things I used to pray for. Thank God they weren't answered in the way I wanted them to be. Don't resist it. Don't fight it, go with it. There's a blessing. Now let's compare this to unity, basic metaphysics. The attitude of non-resistance is the most important key. Spiritual unfoldment is a process, and there is much in human consciousness that requires healing and transforming along the way. That's life, isn't it? Here to transform us, to heal us. So through the practice of non-resistance of our lives, we have the opportunity to realize that all situations in life can teach us something. And we're not here to attack life, but to learn from it and grow from it. And when we realize this, it helps us meet all of our challenges with an inner peace and spiritual poise. Oh, I wish I could be there all the time. Do you go up and down like I do, in and out of that? Well, when that happens, I go to my book. No, it's not the Bible. It's not a Charles Fillmore book. It's the Tao of Pooh, the Tao of Winnie the Pooh. Did you ever read the Tao of Pooh? It's wonderful. And the author compares it to the Tao Te Ching. By the way, Tao is pronounced with a D, not a T. There's also a movie called Goodbye, Christopher Robin, and it's based on the book, and it's based on the author's real son, who was Christopher Robin, and he wrote a book about his animals, his stuffed animals. Now, they weren't the best parents. None of us are we? We try to be. But he was a World War I vet, and he suffered severe post-traumatic stress. Severe. But somehow through all that, he managed to write the book, Winnie the Pooh. And at that time, England was trying to heal from the war, World War II this time, and it touched the hearts of everyone in England and around the world. It's like it brought the innocence back, the healing, soothing innocence, because Winnie the Pooh walks so gently through the world, in harmony with his surroundings. The book reads, "Happy serenity is the most noticeable characteristic of the Taoist personality, and the subtle sense of humor is apparent in even the most profound Taoist writings." I always say life is far too important to be taken seriously. You have to have a sense of humor in order to be in harmony with the world. You have to. Now the characters of Winnie the Pooh, I can relate to all of them. There's a little bit of us in all the characters. And the one I relate to the most is Tigger. You know, Tigger's that tiger, and he jumps around, he's high energy. I came into the world with real high energy. I'm a Gemini, I have a quick mind, and I had all this energy as a child. And I spent all this time hurrying and rushing around until a childhood illness slowed me down. And the blessing in that illness was it did slow me down. God knows where I'd be if I were still like Tigger jumping around the world. I was so high energy. My prayer that I always prayed as a child was, God, save me from boredom. Don't let my life be boring, God. And now as an adult, I pray, oh God, one boring day, please, God, one boring day. But to a true Taoist, it doesn't matter. Either one is okay if you're in harmony with it, in harmony with the flow. The author says, our religions, sciences, and business ethics have tried their hardest to convince us that there's some great reward waiting for us somewhere else, and that we spend our lives working like lunatics to catch up with it. And it's somehow always further along, around the bend, someplace else, around the next corner. And that's why it's so difficult to be happy in the now. And most people give up cursing the world. The world isn't to blame, but it's there to help show us the way. The way is the Tao. Your spiritual path is the Tao. Your life can be that Tao. Now the Let's look at Eeyore. I think there's a little Eeyore in all of us. Eeyore is just the opposite of Tigger. He's slow and he whines and complains. He resists everything in life around him, and he doesn't usually enjoy life's present moments because he's too busy complaining and resisting. Now we know, especially 2020, life can get intense, but we don't have to get intense along with it. 2020 has been, but we can relax in the flow, centered in the truth of our being. We don't have to get intense. We can stay peaceful. Well, let's go on to Little Piglet. Little Piglet is so sweet, but he's fearful of his own shadow. Everything makes him afraid. And it's his fear that keeps him from the Tao, from that peaceful flow. Fear. When you work with circumstances, instead of saying, this isn't supposed to be happening this way, how many of you have said that this year? This shouldn't be happening this way. Trying to make it happen some other way. You're not in the Tao. You're not in the flow. You know, in Arizona, the Navajos used to say, don't pray for rain, be in harmony with the drought. Wow, just the opposite of what we'd like to do, isn't it? Well, all these characters are part of Christopher Robin, and they're all part of us too. I see myself in all of them. Eeyore, the owl, the rabbit, are thinkers. They live in the intellect, and they rationalize their life away instead of enjoying it. You know, people who are all in their heads sometimes. Within each one of us, there's an owl and a rabbit and an Eeyore and a Pooh. For too long, we've chosen the way of the owl and the rabbit, in control, rational, using the power of our intellect. But now, like Eeyore, we complain about the results, but that accomplishes nothing. If we're smart, we'll choose the way of Winnie the Pooh. On the back cover of the book, summarizes the whole book. While Eeyore frets, Piglet hesitates, the rabbit calculates, and owl pontificates. But Winnie the Pooh just is. He just is, no matter what. Nothing disturbs the calm peace of his soul. The harmony that naturally existed between heaven and earth from the very beginning could be found by anyone at any time. According to Lao Tzu, the more man interfered with the natural balance provided and governed by the universal laws, the further away from harmony retreated into the distance. The more forcing or controlling, the more trouble there was. I had a friend that gave me permission to say this. It happened years ago. He was making a peace pipe. And he was very frustrated because he was trying to get that hole in the metal rod. You will know it, trying to get a hole through a piece of wood. And it was coming out crooked every time he tried. And he was getting angrier and more frustrated as he went along. And finally one of his friends came up and said, well, what's the purpose of what you're making? And he said, it's a peace pipe. And the guy said, oh, well, maybe you should find some before making it. Can't you relate to that? I can relate to that. The metaphysical interpretation, of course, is that center in you is your Christ presence, by whatever name you call it, your divine presence at the core of your being, your place of peace. The power of the presence is there. Wayne Dyer said about the Tao, an invisible intelligence in the universe that when you consciously connect with it, you begin to trust in it rather than the things your senses are telling you is real. Trust that flow of your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What causes a flower to grow? Some would say rain, soil, sunshine. But he says no, it's the divine presence, not human effort, nothing out there, but the divine. expands from within. The Tao does not do, but nothing is not done. Not about doing, and yet it all gets done. Not by our human effort, but by the divine unfolding within us. Well, the author of the Tao of Pooh said, it means that the Tao doesn't force or interfere with things, but lets them work in their own way, in their own time, to produce results naturally. And then whatever needs to be done gets done. So let's go to our own scripture. Would you repeat with me after I'll say it first? Nothing shall disturb the calm peace of my soul. Together, nothing shall disturb the calm peace of my soul. Say that this week, and don't forget your teddy bear. Hold your teddy bear while you're saying it. And now Brandon and Connie will sing I Release and I Let Go, and we invite you all at home to sing it with us.